Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Optimism in the Quran. It's not something which we normally connect to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the amazing thing is that if you were to look through the stories of the prophets that Allah Azza wa Jal sent to the various nations, you will find that despite the trials, the difficulties, the hardships, the obstacles that they faced, they always had this amazing sense of optimism. Optimism in the hope of Allah, optimism in the promise that Allah's promise will come true, optimism in the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal. And I'm going to highlight this through three stories. The first of those stories in this episode is the story of the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. Ibrahim alayhi salam was an old man. His wife was an old woman. And even though they had wanted a child for many, many years, decades had passed and they had no child. But eventually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed him with the son Ismail alayhi salatu wassalam. And you can imagine, after so many years of longing and waiting and hoping and making dua, they finally have this precious child. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to test Ibrahim alayhi salam. So more or less soon after he had this amazing beautiful baby boy, Allah Azza wa Jal commands him to take that son of his, the newborn baby, along with his mother, and leave them in the middle of a barren land, what today we know as Mecca. But in those times there were no people, no food, no water, no shelter, nothing. It wasn't even on a journey path. It wasn't even on a path where people used to frequent that land or that area. Yet Ibrahim alayhi salam immediately took them both and he left them there with nothing except that sense of optimism in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah Azza wa Jal wouldn't forsake him. He wouldn't forsake his wife and his son. And that's why as he was leaving, his wife said to him, "Where are you going, O Ibrahim? Where do you leave us?" And so Ibrahim alayhi salam continued to walk. And then she said, "Allahu amaraka bihada." Did Allah command you to do this? And then he said, "Yes." That's all he said. And then she said in response, "Go, for Allah will never forsake us." And we know that Ismail alayhi salam, he lived a life of prosperity in Mecca. They had Zamzam, people came, a community grew. All of these things happened because of that undying sense of optimism. Now some years have passed and that baby boy Ismail has now grown up. He's a boy. He's of 10, 11, 12 years old. Ibrahim alayhi salam hasn't seen him for a long time. Now he wants to come back and visit that same son of his that he so longed for, so wished and hoped for. But Allah Azza wa Jal says to him, as you go back, now you must take Ismail and slaughter him. The first time you left him for dead, he didn't die. Now go and finish the job. And so he comes to his son Ismail. And he says to him, as Allah mentions in the Quran, قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ إِنِّي أَرَى فِي الْمَنَامِ أَنِّي أَذْبَحُكَ فَانظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى. He said, "Oh my dear son, I saw in a dream that I was slaughtering you, so what do you think?" He said, "Oh my father, do as you have been commanded, and you will find insha'Allah that I am from amongst the patient." Look at that sense of optimism. They knew that Allah Azza wa Jal, His plans are far greater, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't forsake His awliya and the believers. And so they went forward to carry out the commandment of Allah, and we all know that from those simple acts, we have so many rites that today we perform in Hajj and on the big Eid. And so this is a sense of optimism that we find in the Quran. One of the ways that you overcome trials and problems in your life is by having that same sense of optimism that the prophets of Allah displayed. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وحي وحق وأحياء الله نادى في السماء هو معجز